All right, joining us now is the former White House Communications Director, Anthony Scaramucci. He served in the Trump administration for a very short period of time in 2017. He's also the founder of Skybridge Capital, an investment firm. Anthony, great to talk to you.
John, how are you? It's a rough day in the markets, but I do agree with Secretary Mnuchin. If we can see past the next 3 to 6 months, there'll be hopefully some pent-up demand that we can benefit from in the late part of this year.
Yeah, stocks falling. Again, we mentioned the Fed cutting the interest rate to zero. We've heard about things like quantitative easing again, the Federal Reserve pumping massive amounts of liquidity back into the market. And this is not my area of expertise, Anthony. This is your area. But, people do say, how long can these types of stimulus options work, considering that interest rates have been low for so long and that, there is a lot of bad debt out there on people's balance sheets in some of these companies?
But you have to remember what the Fed is trying to do is we have a healthcare crisis right now and we have a pandemic, and they don't want that to turn into a financial crisis. And so these things are coupled together. People are expecting a slowdown, and so they're starting to off-ramp and unload a lot of their securities. And so the reason why the Fed injected the $1.5 trillion last week and they've added a $700 billion quantitative easing package is just to stabilize and calm down the markets. But I do agree with you, the monetary policy and the over-reliance by political leaders on monetary policy has actually been very damaging. In a weird way, the monetary policy helps the people, John, that have the assets, but it doesn't necessarily help the middle or lower middle class people. And you really need to solve that through fiscal policies, not monetary policies.
It's got to be somewhat concerning to you as well, Anthony, that Wall Street seems to be so dependent on what comes out of Washington in terms of news, in terms of stimulus packages and what Congress is going to eventually vote on for this coronavirus deal whenever they reach it.
Yeah, well, I think unfortunately, since the 2008 crisis, we were a data-dependent Wall Street society where we analyze stocks, and there's a term in our markets called price discovery, where you're looking for the true value in the individual security. But when you do these massive macro monetary easings, those interest rate policies lift all assets. So what we know in our industry is that interest rates are the financial gravity of financial assets. So the lower they go, the higher the asset prices. And so you've lost our specific security analytics, and we're now more concerned about things that are coming out of Washington because these big macro moves, we turned the Federal Reserve, ironically, into the largest hedge fund in the world. They had a $6.5 trillion balance sheet at the peak of the crisis. They're likely taking this balance sheet up right now, $1.5 to $2 trillion. So that makes very, very big macro adjustments in stock prices, bond prices, et cetera.
Yeah, it scares a lot of people, and we see these movements. Friday it's up 1,000 points. Monday it's down 2,000 points. Reason to be concerned. And when you look at the possibility of a recession or whatever may come from this, you're still somewhat bullish on the economy, but how do you think this changes the prospect and the chances of President Trump getting reelected?
So let's just talk about the economy for 1 second. So we are actually short-term bearish. We do believe a recession is in place and starting to happen. Our second quarter estimate is about -5%. We think you'll get -3 in the third quarter. That defines a recession. But I do believe that you will see an economic recovery coming to the back half of the year because consumers are pretty well positioned. They have pretty strong balance sheets. They're slowing down their consumption right now. So you could be spring loading consumption into the fourth quarter. But I think the president is going to have a difficult time now because with the largest leg of his stool, he was running on a platform of controlling the borders. It was an anti-immigration platform. It was a deregulation platform, and it was an economy, Wall Street, stock price soaring platform. The biggest pillar of that would be the last one, and since he's lost that, I think it's going to take the wind out of his sails. And last night's debate performance, which I would argue was Joe Biden's best debate performance. Listen, he is. He's 78 years old.
Yeah, and you can see he's your guy now, basically, right? You've been an anti.
Well, he's not my guy because I'm a lifelong Republican, but I really feel that the president has hijacked the Republican Party and he's more or less turned it into the Trumpist movement. And so, in order to cleanse and sort of rebuild, re-engineer the Republican Party, I would prefer Joe Biden at this time. I think the Republicans, without Trump, will hopefully take a retreat and a reset and evaluate what they've been doing as leaders over the last 3 or 4 years. And we can hopefully redefine our roots, get back to the calling card of real conservatism and the values that represents. The president really doesn't represent many of those values.
You know, that's a lonely position, Anthony.
I don't think it's that lonely, actually. There is an undercurrent of a lot of people that are moderate Republicans, true conservative Republicans.
I would respectfully say that
very clearly.
You know, the people that are showing up to vote for President Trump in the primary so far, the people that are going to decide this election, you see the turnout. It does seem like his base of support still is strong at this point.
Okay. So let's go over that, John. There's 24% of the American electorate is registered as Republicans. And so the president is picking up another 10 or 15% of the independents. Remember, that's the largest voting bloc now, are Americans registered as independents.
Right, Anthony, look, what I'm saying is, right now, the support remains strong for the president. Things could change with the coronavirus response. I know you've been negative about that, but we just heard Governor Cuomo praising the president. We've seen Jay Inslee of Washington State praising the president.
What's Governor Cuomo going to do, John? He needs the president's help right now, and what we've learned about the president, he responds to that sort of flattery.
So you're calling the governor, you're calling these guys liars for praising the president?
No, I'm calling him a smart diplomat. I'm not calling him a liar. I think there's a level of diplomacy that's necessary in a situation like this. But listen, you're asking me my views. I'm sharing them with you. He's totally mishandled this crisis. He had the information in January. He could have made the moves that he's making today. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be hurt by this.
That he made, closing down borders, things that you see Germany just now starting to do today. I didn't want to argue too much about the politics of all this because Americans, they're seeing it through that lens.
It's not a partisan. John, it's not a partisan battle.
It's not a partisan issue.
It's not a partisan issue. It's Trump is arguing with public health care experts. That's what it really is. And so we've got to stop the nonsense about subjective facts, and we've got to look at the facts on the ground and look at what the epidemiologists are saying to do in a situation like this.
And I think he's put the right people out front, the Surgeon General, Anthony Fauci, from the Centers for Infectious Disease. But Anthony, we're out of time, unfortunately. Great to see you. Thank you for your insight as always, and we'll look forward to the next time.
Well, I hope you'll invite me back. Give me a little more time.
Well, you filibustered me the last time. I got you back.
I know this is
always
a Trump
the invitation's always there, but I got Bernie Kerik waiting.
Say hello to Bernie Kerik for me. I'm a huge fan, and congratulate him for me.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.